Very good afternoon to all. I hope you all are fine and having the safe time. Myself, Ashok Juneja, National President, the Textile Association India, welcome you all on today's webinar, that is Faceless Assessment, Appeals and Taxpayers Charter. This webinar is being organized by the Textile Association, supported by the Indian Textile Journal. It is worth to mention that this webinar is being organized in association with the Office of the Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Mumbai. Sincere thanks to Mrs. Lekha Kumar, Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Mumbai, and her team. Next slide. As you are aware, the Textile Association India, it was established on 9th April 1939, and we have 26 units all over India, and with more than 25,000 strong membership. It is a non-profit professional organization, and TI also provides the distance education to the pupil, to the associates who are working in the textile industry. We have our corporate office in Mumbai, and we have the 26 unit all over India. Next, Karthik. Back. Yeah, Textile Association India also published its Journal of Textile Association bi-monthly. We also circulate the newsletter time to time to all the members regularly to keep them updated. All important news and activities are updated on Textile Association website. And we also provide soft copy of textile newspaper, latest magazine to all our members. And we are time to time by compiling all these things. This is just one of our association has compiled the textile digital library, where around 5,000 video of the textile processes are compiled, so that any student or member can see to have the benefit of that. Next. As I mentioned, this webinar is supported by Indian Textile Journal. I think everybody knows Indian Textile Journal is one of the oldest textile publication, that is almost 130 years, since the last 130 years. And it continues to support the entire textile value chain, right from fibers to the finished product. And they also give various coverage to all the events and the exhibition. So thanks to the Indian Textile Journals for supporting this event. Next. Now coming to the what is the webinar, topic of the webinar. As you may be aware that the Faceless Assessment Scheme 2019 has been announced by the central government in earlier year. Further, the Central Board of Direct Taxes has notified the National E-Assessment Center at Delhi and Regional E-Assessment Center across the various cities in the country for the implementation of this scheme. The Honorable Prime Minister has on 14th August launched the platform for transparent taxation based on the theme of honoring the honest, and for such purpose the faceless assessment has been extended, whereby all cases other than those assigned to the central and the international taxes to be done through the faceless assessment. No need to mention again, this webinar is being organized in order to appraise about the working and the benefit of the said faceless assessment scheme to the honest taxpayer. So to brief about the faceless assessment scheme, today we have the panel with us. Panel consists of first Mrs. Lekha Kumar. Mrs. Lekha, I will just introduce to the panelists. It is my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Lekha Kumar, graduated in Economic Honors from the Ladies Shri Ram College, Delhi, and did her master from Delhi School of Economics, joined the Indian Revenue Service in 1987. Mrs. Lekha Kumar is an IRS officer of 1987 batch. As I said, she joined in 1987. Presently, she is posted as Chief Commissioner of Income Tax 5 and also holding the additional charge of Chief Commissioner REAC in Mumbai. She has administrative experience of more than 33 years in various capacities in income tax department as well as with various ministries of Government of India. So welcome, ma'am, to this webinar. We have with us Mr. Rajesh Ranjan Prasad. Mr. Rajesh Ranjan Prasad is an IRS officer of 1989 batch. Presently, he is posted as Principal Commissioner of Income Tax 12. This charge has recently been diverted as Principal Commissioner of Income Tax REC 8 Mumbai. Welcome, Mr. Prasad, to this webinar. Our third panelist is Mr. D.K. Chablani. Mr. D.K. Chablani is an IRS officer of 1989 batch. Presently, he is posted as Principal Commissioner of Income Tax REC in Mumbai. So, welcome to the all panelists. So now, to start with this, just to brief to attendee, this webinar is mainly for this faceless assessment topic. And if you have any question, you can type your question in the question box. We will take the question box after the presentation. So to start with, I will first invite Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Mrs. Lekha Kumar, for her expert speech. Now to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Juneja. It is indeed a very great pleasure for us to be interacting with the Textile Association of India. I was very pleasantly surprised to see that it has been in existence since 1939. So that's a really long time, and a large number of members and chapters you have. We had reached out to share with you the faceless assessment scheme that was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister on the 13th of August to introduce an era of transparent taxation honoring the honest. The philosophy of this scheme is to take the level of service delivery and tax administration to the next level. As you know, historically, Income Tax Department has always been a very fearless innovator, and it has in the past been probably one of the pioneering departments in introducing e-governance in its public service delivery and in its internal processes also. As long back as I think 1994-95, when we embarked upon this path, we first started with allotment of PAN numbers, which were supposed to be unique identifier for each SSE. I think many of your members would remember the time of those days. Then some of you may even remember the income tax return filing melas we used to organize. I remember I was posted in Delhi, and in Pragati Maidan there would be, in the month of June or July, whenever was the last day for filing of especially the individual salary returns, there would be long queues of people. And it was slowly, when the number of taxpayers and number of return filers increased, when we started looking at the logistic nightmare to manage thousands of people who would turn up and in that heat stand in the queue for hours. So we started and we launched e-filing platform, and that was, I think, around 2005, 2006. So every time we have taken big leaps, and we have harnessed technology to completely take us and reinvent our role on a technological platform, and to ensure seamless, painless, and now faceless delivery of services. And so the assessment has now come in for this huge reform, which we hope is not merely a reform, but it will transform the way the government functions and the way the income tax department is going to function. So for this, we have made, I will request Dinesh Chablani to give the broad parameters of this scheme. But before we do that, I just wanted to touch lightly upon the taxpayer charter that has been now brought out. I think all the members will be very happy to know that the commitment of the department has been formalized as a income taxpayer charter, which has been released. And not only is the department committed to providing courteous, fair, reasonable treatment to all SSEs, it's also going to provide complete and accurate information, provide timely decisions, collect correct amount of tax, respect the privacy of taxpayers. So there are many promises here: maintain confidentiality, hold its authorities accountable. So there are many promises that the department has voluntarily come out with and made to the taxpayer, because our effort here is not only to introduce a huge amount of transparency in our interactions with the taxpayers. Our final goal is to win your trust, and you should feel that you are a partner in the national building process for which we are garnering resources. And if each person pays the amount of tax that he or she rightly should be paying, that will be enough to ensure that the nation is on a very solid uh, future is looking very positive, and nation will grow in very positive way. At the same time, the taxpayer charter has also listed out certain expectations which are or the government has from the taxpayers, and these are very simple, uncomplicated expectations which are not at all difficult to fulfill. The simple expectation is to be honest and compliant, to keep yourself well informed, to keep accurate records, to respond in time, to pay the due taxes on time. So these are the kind of expectations we are having. That has been articulated in this document, and this document has been released so that there's complete understanding of both the sides, and therefore we are very happy to share with you. You are a big stakeholder in this entire exercise, and we want you to understand what this scheme is all about and what the department is trying to do, and seek your cooperation and help to make this scheme a huge success. Thank you so much. I would now invite Dinesh Chablani to explain the various facets of this faceless assessment scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You were showing your screen, Mr. Chablani. You're good to go.
Oh, my screen is visible?
Yes, it's we can see it.
Yes.
No, actually, I'm still not able to see my own screen. I'm seeing the videos only, the screens of you people.
Just 1 minute. Tanvir, you are able to
Mr. Chablani, just please go to your PowerPoint and you can continue. You won't be. You can just move through the slides. We are able to see your screen perfectly.
Just a minute.
Alt Tab might also help.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. So, this is now called faceless assessment scheme. Just a year back, it was being called as a faceless e-assessment scheme. Now, because it was this nomenclature was conflicting with the e-proceedings already going on in the field, so it has been given a new name for clarity. Now, we Yeah, so ma'am already explained you about the taxpayers charter that has been released by the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi on 13th of August under the grand program of transparent taxation, honoring the honest. Now this faceless assessment scheme talks about the e-communication of information, e-verification and e-response. Basically, this scheme is intended to eliminate or minimize the physical interaction with the taxpayers, and this facelessness is going to give good dividends to the taxpayers as well as the department, because everything is just going to be the transparent, fair and uh, uh, benefiting all the stakeholders in this process. Now, faceless assessment, it was launched as a pilot project last year in September 2019, and it was covered in 8 regional centers, and with you can say 25 principal commissioners and 4 chief commissioners in place. So we have had a good experience in the pilot project despite the COVID phase in between. And because of the success of this pilot project, the government thought of it to expand it to entire base of the income tax department as far as the assessment proceedings are concerned. Rest of the functions of the department will continue to be handled by the field officers, what we call as a residual hierarchy. So as far as faceless assessment is concerned, the last bullet you can see central charges, the cases assessed in central charges, which are post-search assessments, and cases which are assigned to international taxes. These cases will continue to be handled by the field officers because of intricacies involved. Rest of all the assessments where the PAN does not lie in central and international tax will be handled by faceless assessment. Now the legal framework, the earlier name was e-assessment, now it is a faceless assessment scheme. Last year, this amendment was made, and along with this section 143 3A and 3B were inserted, and they broadly talk about the greater efficiency, transparency, and accountability, eliminating interface, optimizing the utilization of resources, and functional specialization, like on the basis of division of work. And team-based assessment, it is not going to be an assessment made by a single officer. And dynamic jurisdiction means you do not know which assessing officer is going to handle your case. So this is created to remove any kind of individual bias, and also frame a good assessment, whether it goes in favor of revenue or it goes in the favor of the assessee. The bottom line is very clear that it will be good for both the stakeholders. So I have already mentioned you that we are still having this 58,000 cases with us. Out of that, 10,000 have been disposed of, and this is the broadly going to be the structure. I'll explain this picture that with taxpayer on one side, taxpayer is only interacting with the National E-Assessment Center. All the communication will go to him from NEAC, and taxpayer will also communicate with National E-Assessment Center without knowing that who is going to handle his case in the background. Now, in the field, the regional E-Assessment Centers are actually divided into 2 parts: assessment units, verification units, technical units, and review units. Now, NEAC will be interacting with these units separately, independently, and there will not be any inter-se communication between these units. Assessment unit will not be able to communicate with verification unit or technical unit or review unit. Every communication inter-se between these units will be through NEAC only. So whatever assessment unit does will go to NEAC, and NEAC will again allocate the case to verification unit in case the assessment unit has recommended some kind of verification. And all the allocations would be through automated allocation system. So you do not know which city, which assessing officer your case is going to lie, and where your verification will ultimately, which officer will ultimately verify your case. Technical unit is definitely for making a little bit advanced or specialized kind of references like expert legal opinion, the forensic, the special audit, the valuation reference, transfer pricing, etc. And the review unit is, you can call it as a kind of a pre-audit that after the assessment unit finalizes its draft assessment order, it may or may not go to the review unit, subject to the risk profile of the case. So the first, every draft assessment order passed by the assessment unit will go to the risk management system, and from there, maybe in 10% of the cases the review will happen, otherwise the case will straight away be passed. So the allocation is random and there is no interaction. Everyone communicates with National E-Assessment Center, may it be on a taxpayer side or may it be from the department side. So these things I have already explained. I'll move to the next slide. So the assessment unit identifies the issues, seeks information and analyzes the material to frame the draft assessment order. And what happens that whenever the case is reviewed and review case by the risk management system is selected for review, then in case the review suggests any modification, the case does not go back to the same assessment unit, it will go to a different assessment unit, again to prevent an individual bias. Now the verification unit is unique in the sense that PCIT verification unit is a prescribed authority under section 133C, and it has been given all India jurisdiction to conduct any inquiry, examination of books of accounts, examination of witnesses and recording of statements, and if any physical inquiry is required to be done. Now what happens that scheme says that every communication has to be in electronic mode, except when the NEAC with the approval of the board prescribes certain circumstances under which the electronic mode is exempted for the department side. So physical inquiry may happen under those circumstances, and then the you can say the PCIT VU will be the only authority who will be physically exposed to the assessee or the third party wherever the inquiry is required to be done. The review unit, as I said, it's a kind of a pre-audit. So it reviews the order from the point of view of facts and law, and whether the material available on record has been considered properly, all judicial decisions have been considered or not, arithmetic accuracy, giving credit of taxes and all that. So review unit is meant for that. Technical unit I have already explained. So each unit, let me also tell you one more thing, that it is not a single officer who does. Assessment unit is not a single officer. It is actually assessing officer, maybe an ITO or ACIT, and over him or her there is a unit head. So all the questionnaires go with the approval of the unit head. All the draft assessment orders are finalized with the approval of head. Nothing from the assessing officer goes without the approval of the senior officer, which is a joint or additional commissioner of income tax. So you can imagine the kind of scrutiny that happens, and therefore the kind of output that we are going to get is definitely going to be benefiting us. So this is a comparative chart which explains between the erstwhile, or you can say the legacy system, and the faceless assessment system. So I'll only read out the important points which are mentioned in the bold. So there is no discretion to any officer in the selection of the case. The cases would be selected through computerized selection process. Cases are allocated randomly. Notices are to be issued electronically and centrally. You do not know which officer is actually going to handle. Even the questionnaires and orders are going to be served through NEAC. Now, NEAC is a single point of contact as far as the department is concerned. So there are no physical meetings, no more waiting outside the office, officer identity to remain unknown. It's a team-based assessment. It is not only team within the assessment unit, but you can say that there is another team in the name of verification unit and another team in the name of review unit or technical unit. So team, actually you can say that there are sub teams within the entire team. So lot many officers are actually applying their mind over the case. So hardly there is going to be anything left out which can be said to be unfair. So objective is to have an objective order, fair and just order, and that we can ensure by this scheme. So functions of residual hierarchy. Residual hierarchy, what I mean to say that after the creation of regional e-assessment centers, and some people would be shifted there and they will be only doing the assessment work, and rest of the functions will be still handled by the erstwhile department, where the charges are being merged. And what actually it is going to do for your interest is that some people will say that if everything goes electronic, then how we'll be able to contact for our different matters which are legacy matters. So rectification, penalty, collection and recovery, giving effect to appellate orders, and demand management, audit functions, filing of appeal, all these matters will continue to be handled by the field officers. Similarly, the other functions of the residual hierarchy would be 263 and 264, the prosecution, and there also the last bullet that you can see is that as far as possible, this too also should happen in a faceless manner through RTBA portal. So there also the guidelines are prescribed that minimum interface even at the field officer level. Assessment, as I said, it will be done by the RESCs and NESCs, and an assessment will have completely no human interface except for certain circumstances relating to the verification part. Now, cases covered by the, so these are the cases which you can say that in which we can say that the assessment proceedings have commenced and they are pending. So returns have been filed and 143.2 is issued. No return has been filed, but 142.1 calling for the information has been issued. There also we have to make an assessment, and no return income has been filed under 142.1 and a 142.1 has been issued. So these are the typical preconditions for an assessment to be pending. So these pending assessments, even if they are pending in the field just now, will be migrated to the faceless setup. Now, AU, this is within the RESC NESC setup. This is the procedure. AU may make a request to NESC to obtain any information, documents from the assessee or any other person. That means you can say that AU will propose a draft notice. It will go to NESC and NESC will issue it to the assessee. Now, this communication from the NESC will go to the assessee in many ways. Let me explain that it will every return filer these days is an e-filer, and they have got their registered e-filing account based on their PAN and through which they file their income tax returns also. So in that portal only, in the registered account only, they will find this notice placed. Similarly, whenever any order is passed, that also will be placed in the registered e-filing account. Similarly, beyond this registered e-filing account, there will be another forum that whatever mail ID the assessee has shared with the department, on that mail ID also the notices will be sent by the NEAC, not by the AU. So, and another, there will be a real-time alert in the form of an SMS also, so that the assessee comes to know that such and such notice has been issued in his case, for which he can check his mail ID or the registered e-filing account. Now, AU may refer the case to VU for verification, AU may refer the case to TU for technical assistance. So after that, what happens that this NESC will issue the notice and the SSC will file his response to the NESC. And VU TU, I have already told you that random allocation would happen, and that's all. So once the verification and technical aspects are done by the VU and TU, they will report back the matter to AU through NESC. So through NESC is something that I need not to repeat always, because no unit is inter se communicating amongst themselves directly. So next slide is about the next step, that when the notices are issued and the compliance is made, then the draft assessment order is framed by the assessment unit, and whatever penalty proceedings are proposed to be initiated in the draft assessment order will be mentioned in the draft assessment order, and that draft assessment order will go to NESC, but not to the SSC right now. So draft assessment order will be sent by the NESC through to RMS. RMS is called risk management system, where we have devised certain machine driven criteria which consider the basis on which the case was selected for scrutiny, and maybe considering the value at risk or other parameters. The RMS will take its decision in 3 ways. So either they will say that the risk flag is no, so RMS will say green flag. So NESC will go ahead and finalize the assessment order if no modification is there. Because if no modification is there, there is no need to even give a show cause to the SSC. Not even to the draft assessment order is also not required to be shared. Now, if the modification has been suggested in the draft assessment order, then the RMS will flag SCN flag. SCN means a show cause notice. Then the show cause notice will be sent by the AU through NESC to the SSC along with the draft assessment order, asking him to show cause as to why not the assessment be made as per the draft assessment order. Now, in some cases, maybe 10% or so, when the RMS is not satisfied, it's not a human intervention, it's totally machine driven. RMS is not satisfied with the quantum of addition made be nil or lesser addition, or maybe high pitched addition also. Then RMS will flag the case for review, and then the case will be sent to a review unit. Now, review unit may concur with the draft assessment order and send it to NESC. Then NESC will take either of these 2 actions. Now, these twin blue actions are repeated everywhere in the slide. So NESC will have either of these 2 options to choose. So if review unit concurs, then NESC what will do, if no modification in the draft assessment order will be finalized by the SSC and will be sent to the SSC under the digital signature. If modification in the DAO is there, then issue SCN along with the DAO to SSC. So all SCN will go along with the DAO. Now, if the review unit suggests a modification, the case will be sent to a fresh AU. As I already explained, the fresh AU considers the modification and sends the final draft assessment order to NESC. Then NESC, again these 2 options, if no modification, the order will be finalized. If there is a modification, the show cause notice will be sent. DAO may once again be revised after the reply of the SSC to the show cause notice. And again, revised draft assessment will go to NESC. And again, these 2 options NESC has got. If there is no modification, order will be finalized. And if there is a modification, show cause notice will be issued. Now, consequences of no response by the taxpayer. Now, this is something that adversely affects the taxpayer. So our advice to them is that they should access their registered e-filing accounts more often. If they are already aware that the case is already under scrutiny by NESC, they should check their mail accounts. Sometimes the registered mail accounts have the what we call as mobile number and email ID of their CAs rather than their own. So CA, I mean, this is their choice to have given the email ID or mobile number of the CA. So we can't help it, but they should have at least one primary ID as their own, so that they are aware about what notices and what messages are coming from the income tax department. Because CA, if he receives maybe 100 and 200 such mails, he will not be able to distinguish as to which is important, which is not important, and he may tend to ignore, and ultimate the consequences will be suffered by the taxpayer. So they should have a full check on their registered e-filing account and ensure that at least the primary user is contains a mobile number and email of their own rather than their CA or their authorized representative. Now, consequences of non-response are, I mean, as usual, best judgment assessment under section 144. Now, it does not mean that the 144 will always mean addition. If there is a material on record says that no addition is called for, the assessment order can still be like accepting the returned income. But if there is a material on record on which there is no reply to the show cause notice of the assessee, then there would be some amount of addition. Now, this DAO under 144 will also be subjected to risk management system just to check whether there is some high-paced addition or not. Now, authentication of electronic record, this is very important because in paper mode, you know that we always believe in hand signatures. So all communication from the NESE would be under digital signature, that's for sure. And from the assessee side, there are two options based on the way they file their returns. Some assessees like companies are required to file their return of income through digital signatures. So their compliances under this faceless assessment scheme would be always under digital signature. In any other case, as you know that we have a provision of EVC also, something like Aadhaar enabled OTP and all that. So that we call as an e-signature also. So e-signature also is an option. If they are filing the returns under e-signature, their compliances to the notices would also be under the e-signature. Just a minute. This is the last slide. Somehow it was not coming up well. So personal hearing. Now, personal hearing is very important. Sometimes what happens that the assessee may feel that he may, because of the certain contents in the show cause notice, he may like to decide that I need a personal hearing. So assessee can be given a personal hearing, or the authorized representative can be given a personal hearing, but there are conditions. Conditions are that not in all cases the personal hearing would be allowed. There have to be falling under the specified circumstances which are yet to be announced, and NESE would lay out these specified circumstances with the approval of the CBDT, and the concerned CCIT RESE has to examine each request of personal hearing whether it is fitting into the specified circumstances or not, and if he is satisfied, he will approve the personal hearing. But nevertheless, the personal hearing will also be conducted through video conference. So this personal hearing one may like to have with the assessment unit. If the draft assessment order in question, there may be a situation where the verification unit has sent some electronic communication and they want to, assessee wants to have a personal hearing. So we will have a video conference with VU or TU, but RU definitely will not have any interaction with the assessee because they are doing the backend job and they have not to interact with the assessee. So VU, TU and AU may have a personal interaction, that too through video conference. Only you can say the verification unit has been given some leverage to go in for a physical hearing, that too also under a separate specified circumstances which will be which are in the process of being notified. So now here I have given the mail ID of Mumbai coordination, where you can mail your concerns or queries relating to the faceless assessment scheme. And in case you have any suggestions from your association which concerns the association members at large, considering that sector specific issues. Those also, if you will send on email on this mail ID, we will definitely forward it to the board for necessary action. Thank you very much for a patient hearing, and we are open now to the questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chablani, for your detailed presentation. And before I invite there are some question in the question box. So whether ma'am or Mr. Prasad, you would like to add something, or shall I go for the question?
Mr. Chablani has already spoken at length about the scheme of faceless assessment. So now we see that it is a progress from a place when we were having high tax regime, and then assessees were not having some complaints that they are directly facing the officers and having some problem. Now the government has come with a faceless scheme, and where the officers and assessee cannot meet in person. So all the person has to be borne in mind that now there is a faceless scheme. It is after the scheme of e-assessment. So now this has gone through various reforms, and assessment is now being picked up electronically by the system, and national e-assessment system will be forwarding us to the field assessment units of faceless scheme to examine the case and issue notices. Everything will be going to NASE. NASE will then or by automated generation system will allot for a risk management system whether any further thing is required, and then it will come back if any verification is required. Again, it will be done by NASE through electronic mode, and it will send to verification unit, and then it will come back. Then draft assessment order will be made, and the draft assessment order will be again sent to the NASE for examining, and it will be done electronically. And if everything is through, it may be again issued by the NASE. Alternatively, it will go to review unit. So now there are 4 units comprising across the country. There are 30 centers, and 154 principal commissioners have been engaged in this work, and no assessee will know where his file is at what level, at what stage. It may be with assessment unit, it may be with the verification unit, it may be with the review unit or technical unit. The assessee will finally come to know through NASE by mail that his or her or the company's assessment has been drafted, and he will have a choice to see the draft order, and thereafter if he has got still any objection, they will be given opportunity, and finally it will be done by the assessment unit and issued by the NASE unit. So there is hardly any interface between the officer and the assessee of any kind, except they will have some interaction through electronic mode only to the residuary principal commissioner, who will look after other works like collection of demand and other rectification matters. So these are the summary of the scheme, and a progress we have made from up to down. So that is what I can say. And question answer session can be started now.
Yeah. Ma'am, there are mixed type of question whatsoever related to the jurisdiction of this topic, which can be answered. Otherwise, that we can this. There is one question. What one is asked. Why does one have to go to IT office for getting assessing officer to sign personally on a piece of paper to get FD released from bank in capital account? This can be done on online also. I don't know.
We will take it as a suggestion, and
Okay.
since it is a grievance of kind from the assessee's voice, you can just send it as one of the suggestions. But because it is not specifically concerned with the faceless scheme,
Yes.
we will not
Yes.
deal with it here.
Okay. And maybe next question is also not directly concerned with the faceless, but I'm just reading it. In my 26 AS, it is mentioned SFT 0005. What action is required from the taxpayers?
What exactly is that?
I think it's
yeah.
ma'am is regarding specified financial transactions, SFT.
Okay.
I think AIR returns, based on AIR returns.
Yeah, AIR. Yeah, yeah.
which are reported in AIR returns, specified transactions, but we are not able to understand the question.
What is the question?
Question is that in 26 AS, it is mentioned SFT
Oh,
0005. What
Achha.
action is required from the taxpayers?
Yeah, ma'am, can I?
Yeah, please address that.
So 26 AS actually is your own statement of transactions, may it be relating to the credit of taxes or under TDS, advanced tax or self-assessment tax. This 26 AS you have been witnessing for many years. Now this year a new 26 AS has been released, which actually gives you the information which pertains to you own. I mean, it's not something which has come from some other, I mean, you must be knowing about that information, and this information is being made available to you so that you can consider that information while filing a return of income with a true income. It is just an enabling exercise rather than any disabling exercise.
Yeah, so just to add to what Dinesh has already said, the department does collect information of specified financial transactions of all across the country. So far, we had collected it internally, and we would, share with each other, and the assessing officer would have access to that. Now, the new thinking is let the assessee also be aware as to what kind of transactions information is available with the department, and he can factor it in while filing his return. So, it is trying to promote a culture of voluntary compliance. You yourself come forth and, give the tax implication, in your return, you already show the kind of transaction that is required to be shown as per the transaction involved. So if it is SFT 005, it must be a code, Dinesh?
Yeah, yes,
Yes.
ma'am, it's a code, and I think by looking at the transaction, the assessee must be knowing as to what nature of transaction is being reflected.
He would be aware.
Next question is that with whom should deal with the normal issues coming up with the taxation department, assessing officer of the RACS or normal jurisdiction officers? Who will be the regular jurisdiction officer?
Let me handle this. This is a
Yeah.
very simple question. I think broadly, we need to understand one thing very clearly. What has shifted into the faceless assessment scheme is only the assessment. Anything prior to assessment and anything post assessment, everything else lies with the residual hierarchies. That means the jurisdictional assessing officer with whom the PAN resides, PAN of the assessee resides. So if that is the AO you have to contact for the regular thing. The only thing that has been shifted to the faceless assessment charges are the assessment related activities.
Okay.
I would like to just add something more here. Like
Yeah.
now the old charges, many of the charges has been merged into RAC. So if the assessee will be following with the earlier officers, so that may not be relevant. Now the charges are newly created charges. So some charges have merged, and so jurisdiction may slightly vary also. Though
Yeah,
pen
so
will be same. Like I was in PCIT 12, it has gone as PCIT REC 8 now. Now my physical jurisdiction over my earlier charge has gone to PCIT 4. So now any officer, if the assessee is writing anything, it will go to PCIT 4 jurisdictional AOs, whoever is there.
Yes, so just to allay your fears, so that the assessees and all of you here present in the webinar today don't have any, unnecessary worry on this account, let me explain to you. Since some of our officers had to be diverted for the faceless assessment scheme, because now it was expanded to all assessment except two exceptions were there: assessments in the central charges and assessments in the international charges. Other than that, all other assessments have been made faceless. So the faceless assessment teams have to be manned by a larger number of officers, and therefore our field officers had to be diverted to those charges. For this, the field charges that they were holding had to be merged with those charges which remain in the field. Okay, so there has been some change in jurisdiction The new jurisdiction orders will be out soon, and based on the new jurisdiction charges, your PANs will get transferred to the new assessing officer. The jurisdictional assessing officer may undergo some change. Now, the easiest thing for the assessees to do is to go on the e-filing portal, put in your PAN number, but do this please after at least 3 weeks, because this, 2 to 3 weeks is the transition time and the process is underway. So we are working on that. So it will take about 2 to 3 weeks to settle down. After 2 to 3 weeks, if you put in your PAN numbers in the e-filing portal, there's a small utility there. It will show you who your assessing officer is, where your PAN has been sent.
Okay. There is one query, ma'am. This if someone wants to personally represent before CIT bracket A, is it allowed?
Represent before CIT?
Appeal,
CIT
appeal.
bracket A.
That is appeal. So now that is also.
Yeah, actually, in the address of the Honorable Prime Minister on 13th of August, another very significant announcement was made when he said that on 25th of September, we would be shifting to a regime of faceless CIT appeals. So
Okay.
a new scheme, again, facelessness of the CIT appeals is also underway, and it will soon be unveiled. So let us wait for what that scheme says, and then your questions will be answered, I'm sure, once the scheme is unveiled.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, next question is, PM is trying to ease various systems. The faceless system already exists in many countries. Will income tax bureaucracy implement this with full cooperation and efficiency in India?
You see, we have always, again, let me highlight this. We have always striven to provide the highest quality of services to our taxpayers, and this effort is going to continue strongly. Let me assure, there should be no doubt in anyone's mind that, this step has been taken so that we can improve the quality of our services and offer transparency and win over the trust of our taxpayers. So surely, with the highest authorities, blessings, we are going to go very strongly into this regime.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one question is, when will we do away with PAN circle oblique ward system, as changing the ward is very tedious process as on today, and can we have online ward change possibility? Shall I repeat or okay? Understood.
Dinesh, will you take this?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Actually, what the seeker wants to know is whether the circle and ward can be changed by him at his will. So this is not possible because we have divided the entire tax base into various compartments that which assessing officer will look after which cases. Sometimes it is territory based, sometimes it is based on the nature of the case. So that is not in the hands of the taxpayer. The taxpayer can only know whenever some change in the assessing officer, his assessing officer takes place. But as far as the faceless system is concerned, he will never come to know that who is going to assess his case.
Okay. There is another question. I understand that this faceless assessment scheme is applicable to individual taxpayer as well, like salaried, employed, or pensioners.
Yes.
Yes.
All
Okay.
cases selected for a scrutiny will go through faceless process.
Okay, sir. Just 1 minute. Another question is, roughly what percentage of cases will be put for scrutiny? What care shall one take with filing ITR to avoid such issues? This general question. This I don't know whether to how to reply or this. And
Shall I take it? See,
yeah, ma'am.
we are, as it is, scrutinizing a very minuscule percentage of the total returns filed. I think
Okay.
the latest figure is 0.25% of the returns filed. That's really a very small number if you look at it. So, what was the second part of the question?
Roughly what % cases will be put for scrutiny? What
Right.
care shall care shall one take while filing ITR to avoid such issues?
So we have a computer we have a software whereby certain red flag transactions, some red flags are raised based on some suspicious transactions or some abnormalities we see in a tax return, which is a secret formula which we cannot share, and that system generates that selects the cases for scrutiny. It is no longer now with faceless especially, the
Okay.
manual selection has been completely stopped and it will be completely generated by the system.
Next, there is one question. Hope we are going to know more about the taxpayer charter. Means he may want to know more about taxpayer charter. Is it so? I don't know. Have you understood the question? Hope we are going to know more about the taxpayer charter now. Is it so?
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Point number 13 of the taxpayers charter actually says that we are going to define the service standards. So service standards will be defined in due course. Again, answer is in affirmative. Yes, you are going to know more about the citizens charter. We need to wait only for that.
Okay. Want to know the rights of the taxpayers. This is another question. Yeah.
Should I say, it has come into the charter, taxpayers charters we have got from
Yeah.
the board, and it's a very detailed one, and we have a summary also. So it has got some commitment from the department to the taxpayers and some obligation from the taxpayers to the department. So the obligation part of the taxpayers, I will just read out. They have to be honest and compliant. Taxpayer is expected to honestly disclose full information and fulfill his compliance obligations. Because we are having all the information over the system, whatever transactions they are doing. So they should take into consideration, they cannot hide now. So they will take into consideration whatever transactions they are doing, expenditure they are doing, and which comes into the notice of department and which are red flag, they will be scrutinized. So better be honest. That is their one obligation. And whatever information they are having, they should disclose. So they have to be informed. Taxpayer is expected to be aware of his compliance obligation under tax laws and seek help of department if needed. Now, if any need is required, they will seek clarification on electronically only through the designated officers. Then actual record they have to keep. They have to keep accurate records. Taxpayer is expected to keep accurate records required as per law. Now they cannot say that reports are not there, or yeah, chori ho gayi, something has happened. They can't say like that. Whatever record they are having, they must maintain until it is needed. And then another is they have to know the representative, what the representative does on his behalf. Now this is no longer, because tax faceless now, and they have to respond in time. Like NASC will be issuing notices to the assessee, and the assessee have to be on guard on their registered email that what notice is coming from the NASC or the income tax department. They are getting initially 15 days time, and if they overlook it, then things will go slightly different. Like it will come to assessment unit without any verification or whether without any report or without any compliance, then it will be going slightly that whatever you have to supposed to comply, you are not complying. So these are the finer parts of the obligation. So assessee has to remain well informed and always on guard that any notice is coming or not, and they have to check their emails regularly, slightly, maybe once a week they should check at least, come se come. That is what. Yeah.
So I think the same pertaining to this question, immediately somebody asked, for how many years such records to be preserved with the taxpayers?
Ma'am, can you say?
Yes. I think the electronic now, the assessee is asking about his records.
Yeah, his record. I think so.
At least 10 years, I think.
10 years, because we can reopen in normal cases up to 10 years.
6 years
And then if
in normal
international
cases.
transactions, then it was amended to 18
10.
years or so.
Okay.
So 10 years
Okay.
gap. Yes.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
it. And now one question is whether reopening of assessment will be picked by AO or NEAC.
The reopening is actually based on the basis of some information that comes to the knowledge, and this will be handled as far as we can understand from the scheme that has been released by the jurisdictional AO, the PAN assessing officer.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, information comes to the jurisdictional assessing officer, and
Only the
he is having a
jurisdictional
jurisdiction
AO,
over the
so he will decide.
He is entitled and rightful in issuing a notice and also get the response. But nevertheless, the bottom line is that the assessment order he cannot pass. So at
He
any
will
stage
not
of
be passing.
proceedings, he has to transfer the case to faceless.
Okay, sir. And there is another question. It is saying, what recourse the assessee has if the information given in the Form 26 AS is not pertaining to the assessee?
Yeah, in that case, the assessee may ignore. If he believes that the information is not pertaining to him, then he may
Okay.
at best communicate with the department saying that this information doesn't pertain to me. But nevertheless, this is just for the guidance of the assessee. In case he owns up the transactions, then he has to consider those transactions in determining his income. Otherwise, he can ignore. I mean, there could be some mistake in reporting by the agencies which are filing the AIR returns. So in that case, he can approach that agency also. That's to why they have informed this, given this information to the department as regards the assessee.
Okay, sir. I think there is maybe this is will filing of returns go also faceless? I think it is already computerized. I don't know.
Online it is.
That is already electronic.
Yeah, it is already electronic, I think. Okay. So I think, madam, these are the some questions, maybe one or two. Just okay. I think we have taken most of the question, and I think we have covered within the stipulated time. And I think first of all, I think thank you very much, ma'am, for choosing our associations to showing the confidence in our association and the good words you have said for the association. And now it is over to you to say about the concluding remark.
Actually, we are very happy with the kind of interaction we had today. I think we were able to convey the broad parameters of this scheme successfully, and I was happy to hear the questions. Even though some were not directly, it's perfectly welcome. And some of the suggestions or some of the issues that you are facing, the department is always open to those ideas. Like I said, we have been very proactive in improving our service deliveries. So we would always be sensitive to your issues. Let us know. That is one. Any question that remains,
Okay.
and you feel that it requires to be handled, you can forward it to us. You are in touch with our officers, so we will try and answer the question if we can, or if we have to wait for some clarifications before we are in a position to answer that question, we will do so as and when we have that information available with us. I would just now pass on the mic to R.R. Prasad, who would like to say a few words of thanks.
We have already explained the scheme of faceless assessment, and one question was regarding appeal. So that is coming by 25th of September. So system is under transition from a personalized hearing to a faceless hearing, faceless compliance. So that is all. And we are in transition phase for the better and further better, where the grievance of taxpayers may not be there. We will like to bring it to the zero. Our motto is to have a nil grievance of the assessees. So that is for this motto only, the department has moved to faceless system so that everybody is heard on record, and whatever is done, assessment or anything, is based on some information which even assessee is aware of. Nothing will happen which assessee has not done. Now this is the crux of the scheme. Assessee will be aware of.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
So,
Thank you for.
Yeah, Mr. Chablani, you would like to say last line?
Yes.
Something? Yeah. Yeah.
No, thanks. Thank you very much.
So, ma'am, with these words, I think we may take it like that income tax as a F3, faceless, fearless, or friendly, maybe. And I think with that, I think once again, thank you all, yourself and your colleague and your office for giving this briefing about this new scheme. And thanks to all the attendees who have joined for this session. So once again, thank you very much to all for attending this webinar. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.